Well, thank you so much for having me, and I will try as much as possible to explain the questions that you have put before me in light of what happens in the event that some of the leading members of what would be as opposition are actually non-existent in physical. Thank you for having me, and this is important in the sense that it addresses the legal in terms of clarity, institutional in terms of honesty, but also constitutional sobriety, not emotion, not speculation, not even political panic. So I will try and understand. And the core question is or was that what happens when Parliament top leadership is not available. Now, let me begin by stating something very clearly. Uganda's parliament does not collapse. It doesn't stall or become legally paralyzed simply because the top leadership of a political party is unavailable. Why? Because parliament is governed by law and not by personalities. Now, political parties operate through institutions, not through the physical presence of one or two individuals, however influential these individuals may actually be. That is very important for us to comprehend also from the word go. So also, your question in light of how does NUP as a party make decisions in such a situation? Now listen, there are two levels which we must distinguish and must understand because some people usually confuse them. Number one, the issue that has to do with political party leadership. This includes the party president, it includes the party chairperson, it includes Central Executive Committee, what we know as SEC, it also includes National Executive Committee, what we know as NEC. It also includes sometimes a parliamentary caucus in light of that. Now, even if the most important leaders are actually unavailable, the party does not cease to exist. Now, in such cases, decisions are then made through the following. Number one, through the party constitution. For example, the NEC or the SEC, if it is operational. Listen, the Parliament caucus may also be applicable where necessary in light of that particular argument. There is a standard practice in constitutional democracies. For example, a party is not a private household. It is a legal political institution. That means there is salvage of continuity, which cannot be underscored further than what I've just explained. Number two, when you argue in terms of what they call parliamentary leadership, this is critical. Here are instances where people must listen very carefully. Parliamentary leadership is not appointed by party presidents. It is governed by the constitution and the acts of parliament. And it includes the following. It includes the leader of opposition. It includes shadow cabinet. It includes opposition members on parliamentary committees. And that is extremely important, again, for us to understand, even as we try to break down this particular discussion. The question also that you asked is, why does the law, or what does the law in this case say about a leader of opposition, what they call the LOP? Now listen, the Constitution of Uganda, 1995, under Article 82A, establishes the office of the leader of opposition. The Constitution then mandates Parliament to regulate how the LOP is actually chosen. It also talks about their functions. It also talks about their status. And this is done under the administration of Parliamentary Act. And that is extremely important for us to understand again. So what the law says is very clear. It says the leader of opposition comes from the opposition party with the largest numerical strength in Parliament. And that party currently is NUP. Now, the leader of opposition is selected by that party through its internal processes. In other words, Parliament does not vote for the leader of opposition. Government does not appoint the leader of opposition. Very important for us to understand. Listen, once the party communicates the name of the speaker or to the speaker, then the speaker formally recognizes that entity. There are substantive key points for us to understand. Even if a party top leadership is actually unavailable, as long as NUP remains the largest opposition party, and as long as the party communicates through lawful organs, the office of the leader of opposition remains valid, functional, and legally protected. That is extremely important. Another issue then, who appoints the shadow cabinet? Now, this is another area that usually confuses very many people. So under the current law, the leader of opposition appoints the shadow cabinet, okay? And this is done in consultation with the party. That is extremely important. Now, it is not done by Parliament as a whole. Remember that. It's not done by the Speaker. It is not done by government. Please understand that very well. It's not even done by public vote of all the opposition MPs. No. So even where the party's top leadership is actually constrained, yes, then the leader of opposition remains the anchor of opposition parliamentary leadership. Important to note. The shadow cabinet remains lawful once it's appointed by the leader of opposition. That again is extremely important for us to understand. The other question, what about parliamentary committees? Please understand, committee leadership works slightly differently. How? Committees are selected or by virtue or by the established by under the rules of Parliament or procedure of Parliament, yes? And the membership reflects party numerical strength. So opposition parties nominate members, the House approves committee composition. Now, this process does not require daily involvement of party presidents. It relies on party caucuses and parliamentary whips. Again, institutions, not individuals, are the decisive factors. Remember that. Now, the other question, should NUP appoint a parliamentary leadership group if the status quo persists? Let me address this very carefully and responsibly. Legally, remember this, legally, there is no legal vacuum. Parliament already recognizes the leader of opposition, okay? It recognizes the shadow cabinet. Remember that. It also recognizes committee representatives. That must be remembered. So politically and institutionally, these cannot be argued against. Now, yes, it becomes therefore prudent and mature for NUP, for example, to strengthen its parliamentary caucus. Yes, in terms of giving it clear empowerment. Yes, so that the leader of opposition is established. Deputy opposition leaders could also be established. Shadow ministers could also be established. Committee coordinators are also established under that auspice or under that undertaking. So, but this must be done within the party's constitution without violating the Administration of Parliament Act. That becomes extremely important. Without creating parallel or even illegal centers of authority. That again becomes extremely important. Please understand that. And I hope in lieu of the last question that you asked, what does the law not allow? Let me again be very clear for avoidance of doubt. Parliament cannot impose a leader of opposition. Government cannot appoint opposition leader. Public pressure cannot override statutory procedure. Absence of a party president does not nullify parliamentary offices. Any attempt to do so would be unconstitutional and deeply dangerous. Remember that. Now, on the proposed legal reforms, it is important for purposes of clarification that they could be, or they are proposals not yet law, to have all opposition MPs elect the leader of opposition, okay? And they should have a broader approval of the shadow cabinet. So until Parliament amends the law, the current framework remains binding. So we must govern ourselves by law, and it's not as we wish it to be, but as the law is. What would be a takeaway in light of our discussion this evening? The final message, as far as the public and anyone is concerned, let me conclude with this. Democracy survives through institutions, not individuals. The law exists precisely for moments of uncertainty. NUP is not leaderless. Parliament is not stalled. Opposition is not legally paralyzed. What is required now is calmness, yes, discipline, yes, respect for constitutional order, yes, institutional maturity, yes. That, my friend, becomes extremely important. That, not panic, is how democratic movements endure. Please remember that. Thank you very much for your attention.